I was 32 when I finally bought my dream car, a 1967 Ford Mustang Shelby GT500. After 5 years of saving every penny from my engineering job, Eleanor was mine. That classic midnight blue beauty with white racing stripes represented everything I had worked for. I never imagined my own parents would sell her while I was away on business. But that betrayal taught me something about family that changed everything. Before I tell you how I discovered my parents' betrayal, let me know where you're watching from and hit that like button if you've ever had something precious taken from you. Cars weren't just transportation for me. They were my passion, my escape, my dream. Growing up in a small town outside Detroit, I developed my love for classic American muscle cars early. My father, Richard, would occasionally let me help him change oil or replace spark plugs, but there was always this undercurrent of disapproval. "Sabrina, honey, this is getting your hands awfully dirty for a young lady," he would say, while my mother, Patricia, nodded in agreement from the doorway. Despite their subtle discouragements, I spent hours flipping through car magazines, memorizing specs and restoration techniques. My bedroom walls weren't covered with boy band posters like other girls my age. Instead, I had vintage car advertisements and blueprints. My mother would sigh dramatically whenever she entered my room. "When will you grow out of this phase and develop some proper interests?" she would ask. In her mind, proper interests meant makeup dresses and finding a suitable husband. My younger sister Jasmine was different. 4 years younger than me, she was everything my parents wanted in a daughter. Beautiful, popular, interested in fashion and social events. While I was taking advanced math and physics in high school, preparing for an engineering degree, Jasmine was winning beauty pageants and dating the football team captain. "Why can't you be more like your sister?" became the soundtrack of my teenage years. Not that I resented Jasmine for it. She was just playing the game by different rules. We had an understanding even if we weren't particularly close. College was my escape. I earned a partial scholarship to Michigan State for mechanical engineering, but it wasn't enough to cover everything. Unlike Jasmine, whose cheerleading scholarship was supplemented generously by our parents, I worked part-time jobs to make ends meet. Barista in the mornings, library assistant in the evenings, and weekends at an auto parts store, where I could get discounts on supplies for class projects. The owner of that store, Mr. Johnson, became the mentor my father never was. He recognized my passion and knowledge, often letting me help customers with technical questions. "This girl knows more about carburetor systems than most of my male employees," he would boast to surprised customers. After graduation, I landed an entry-level position at Meridian Automotive, a prestigious firm specializing in performance vehicles. The starting salary wasn't impressive, but the potential for growth was enormous. I lived in a tiny studio apartment driving a practical used Honda Civic that got great gas mileage. Every extra dollar went into my savings account labeled Dream Car. My colleagues quickly recognized my talent and dedication. While others left precisely at 5, I would stay late learning everything I could about the industry. My boss Marcus took notice and started assigning me to more challenging projects. Within 3 years, I had received 2 promotions and was leading a small team focused on drivetrain optimization. All this time, I kept searching for my dream car. Not just any Mustang would do. I wanted a 1967 Shelby GT500, preferably in midnight blue with white racing stripes. The exact model that had captured my imagination since I was 12 years old. Every weekend, I scoured online listings, visited car shows, and networked with collectors. Meanwhile, Jasmine had graduated with a communications degree and was trying to build a career as a social media influencer. Her posts were a stream of fashion hauls, makeup tutorials, and carefully staged photos at trendy locations. But behind the filters and perfect lighting, I knew she was struggling. My parents regularly covered her rent when sponsorship deals fell through, or paid off credit card debt when her impulse purchases exceeded her irregular income. "Your sister is building her brand," my mother would explain when I questioned these bailouts during family dinners. "It takes time and investment to become successful in her field." I didn't point out the irony that my unfeminine career choice had resulted in financial independence, while her approved path had led to dependency. It wouldn't have changed anything. After 5 years at Meridian, I found her, Eleanor, a 1967 Shelby GT500 in need of significant restoration, but with all original parts intact. The owner was an elderly gentleman whose health prevented him from completing the project himself. When he heard my story and saw my technical knowledge, he agreed to sell her to me for slightly below market value. "This car deserves someone who understands her," he said, handing me the keys. Promise me you'll restore her properly. I spent the next 8 months dedicating every weekend and vacation day to Eleanor's restoration. My tiny apartment remained sparsely furnished, but I rented a secure garage where Eleanor slowly transformed from neglected classic to gleaming beauty. Each part I restored, each system I rebuilt, connected me more deeply to this machine that represented my journey. When I finally took her for her first real drive, windows down, engine rumbling beneath me, I felt a completeness I had never experienced before. This wasn't just transportation. This was the physical manifestation of my determination, knowledge, and refusal to let others define my path. My parents were less impressed when I drove Eleanor to their suburban home for Sunday dinner. My father walked around it silently, occasionally nodding with grudging approval at my restoration work. My mother simply pursed her lips and said, Kaya. Imagine what you could have done with all that money if you had invested it properly. Jasmine, to her credit, seemed genuinely excited for me. This is absolutely gorgeous, Sabrina, she exclaimed immediately, posing for selfies with the car. Within minutes, the photos were on her Instagram, with captions about my sister's amazing restoration project and vintage vibes. I didn't mind. At least someone in my family appreciated my accomplishment. Little did I know that this moment of familial harmony would be shattered by betrayal just 6 months later. I was thriving at work, leading larger projects and being groomed for management. A major opportunity arrived, a 3-week business trip to Japan to collaborate with engineers at our international partner firm on a breakthrough hybrid engine system. Success would almost certainly mean a promotion to department head, an unprecedented achievement for someone my age, especially a woman in the automotive industry. This is it, I told Eleanor as I took her for one last drive before my trip. When I get back, things are going to be different. We might even need to find you a bigger garage. The night before my flight, I carefully covered Eleanor with her custom car cover, checked all security systems in the garage, and hesitated before making a decision I would later regret. I drove to my parents' house and gave them my spare key. Just in case of emergencies, I explained. The garage has excellent security, but if anything happens, someone should be able to move her if necessary. My father nodded solemnly. We will take good care of it, Sabrina. Her, I corrected automatically. Take good care of her. He smiled thinly. Right. Her. I should have recognized the calculating look that passed between my parents. I should have noticed how my mother's eyes lingered a bit too long on Eleanor's gleaming chrome details. I should have heard the sudden interest in my father's voice when he asked about the car's current market value, just out of curiosity. But I didn't. I was focused on Japan, on the opportunity ahead, on proving myself once again in an industry that still saw me as an anomaly. As I boarded the flight to Tokyo the next morning, my thoughts were on engineering specifications and cultural etiquette, not on the betrayal brewing back home. The Tokyo skyline glittered beneath me as our plane began its descent. Despite my excitement about the project, a flutter of nervousness tickled my stomach. This wasn't just any business trip. This was my chance to prove I deserved the management position being created in our hybrid systems department. First time in Japan? Asked my colleague Jack from the seat beside me. He was the software specialist on our team, brilliant with code, but always deferring to my mechanical expertise. First time in Asia period, I admitted. I barely left Michigan until college. He grinned. You'll love it. The engineering facilities here are incredible. And the food. Just wait until you try real ramen, not that instant stuff. The next morning, still fighting jet lag, we arrived at Tanaka Automotive's headquarters. The building was a marvel of modern architecture, all glass and sustainable materials. Our hosts greeted us with formal bows and immaculate English. Sabrina-san, we have heard much about your work on torque distribution systems, said Hiroshi Tanaka, the company's chief innovation officer. We are very interested in your insights for our collaboration. The following days blurred together in a whirlwind of presentations, prototype testing, and late-night redesigns. I was working 16-hour days, subsisting on vending machine coffee and convenience store onigiri. The Japanese engineers respected my knowledge immediately, which was refreshing compared to the constant proving and reproving I had to do back home. Our project was ambitious, creating a hybrid engine system that would deliver sports car performance with compact car efficiency. My specialized knowledge of mechanical stress points and thermal management became central to solving several key challenges. One night, after everyone else had left, I found myself alone in the lab with Hiroshi. You have exceptional talent, Sabrina-san, he said, as we reviewed simulation results. It is unusual to see such mechanical intuition combined with theoretical knowledge. Thank you, I replied, fighting back a yawn. Cars have been my passion since childhood. He nodded thoughtfully. And yet I sense you still fight for recognition. I shrugged, uncomfortable with how accurately he had read my situation. The automotive industry is changing but slowly. Perhaps. He handed me a fresh simulation report. But talent like yours eventually forces recognition. This project will open doors. He was right. As our collaboration progressed, I found myself leading more aspects of the project. My suggestions were implemented without the questioning and second-guessing I often encountered back in Detroit. When we solved a particularly challenging cooling system issue using my redesign, the entire Japanese team applauded. In rare moments of downtime, I would video call my parents. The time difference meant catching them at odd hours, usually during their breakfast. "How is everything at home?" I would ask after updating them on my work. "Oh, fine, fine," my mother would answer vaguely. "Don't worry about things here." "Have you checked on Eleanor?" I asked during our second call. A strange look passed between my parents. "The car is fine, Sabrina," my father said quickly. "Focus on your work." Something felt off, but I attributed it to the distance and poor connection quality. Besides, I was too exhausted from work to press further. During my third weekend in Japan, I was scrolling through social media during a rare break and noticed something strange on Jasmine's Instagram. She had posted photos from what appeared to be a luxury resort in Bali. Infinity pools, elaborate spa treatments, designer shopping bags. Her captions gushed about living my best life and much-needed luxury escape. I frowned. Last I knew, Jasmine was between sponsorship deals and had been complaining about tight finances. How could she suddenly afford a lavish international vacation? I assumed it was smoke and mirrors, the influencer trick of making things appear more glamorous than reality. When I mentioned this to Jack over lunch, he looked troubled. "Does your sister normally live beyond her means?" he asked carefully. "Sometimes," I admitted. "My parents usually bail her out." He hesitated before speaking again. "And they have access to your car, right? The one you restored?" "Eleanor, yes, they have a spare key, but only for emergencies." "Why?" He shrugged. "Just be careful. I've seen family members take advantage of each other when it comes to money and valuable possessions." I laughed it off. My parents would never sell my car. They know what it means to me. But his words planted a seed of worry that distracted me during the next few days. I found myself checking my security app more frequently, relieved each time to see the garage door remained closed and the alarm system active. Our project was proceeding ahead of schedule. The prototype was exceeding performance expectations, and the Tanaka executives were already discussing production possibilities. My boss back in Detroit was ecstatic during our weekly calls. "You're knocking this out of the park, Sabrina," Marcus said. "The promotion is practically yours already." Then came the request that would change everything. Hiroshi asked if our team could extend the trip by 3 days to present to Tanaka's board of directors. It was an honor that couldn't be refused, but it meant changing my carefully planned return schedule. "Of course we can stay," I assured him, already mentally rearranging my plans. I had been looking forward to reuniting with Eleanor, taking her for a long drive to decompress after weeks of intense work. Now that would have to wait a few more days. I called my parents to update them on my delayed return. "Actually, your father and I are going to visit your aunt in Chicago this weekend," my mother said. "We won't be around when you get back." "That's fine," I said. "I just wanted to let you know. Jasmine might stop by to check on you, though," she added hastily. "She's been thinking about you." Something in her tone made me uneasy. "Has she been staying at your place? I thought I saw her posting from Bali on Instagram." A long pause followed. "Oh, that? She schedules those posts in advance. Very smart with her social media strategy." The explanation didn't sit right, but I was called back into a meeting before I could press further. The final days in Japan were a blur of presentations, contract discussions, and farewell ceremonies. When we finally boarded the flight home, I was both exhilarated by our success and exhausted to my core. "Congratulations," Jack said as we settled into our seats. "You just secured your promotion and probably a significant raise." I smiled tiredly. All I can think about is sleeping in my own bed and taking Eleanor for a long drive along the coast. His expression sobered. "I hope everything is exactly as you left it." I wanted to dismiss his concern, but something kept me from doing so. Instead, I closed my eyes and tried to sleep, pushing away the growing sense of unease. After 26 hours of travel, I stumbled out of Detroit Metropolitan Airport into the humid Michigan summer. My body clock was completely confused and exhaustion had settled into my bones like concrete. Despite this one thought kept me moving forward, soon I would be reunited with Eleanor. "Need a ride?" Jack asked, rolling his suitcase alongside me. "My girlfriend is picking me up. We can drop you at your place." "Thanks, but I already ordered an Uber," I replied, checking my phone for the driver's status. "I want to go straight to the garage and check on Eleanor before heading home." He nodded. "Text me when you get there, okay? Just so I know you made it safe." My Uber driver was chatty, a middle-aged man with a Detroit Tigers cap and opinions on everything from local politics to the automotive industry. When I mentioned I worked for Meridian Automotive, he perked up. "No kidding, my cousin works in your shipping department. Small world, huh? You must have a sweet ride working for a company like that." I smiled, thinking of Eleanor. "I have a restored '67 Mustang Shelby GT500. He whistled appreciatively, then frowned slightly as he glanced at me in the rearview mirror. "Had one of those, did you? Beautiful cars. My neighbor used to have a classic Shelby. Sold it last month to some collector. Nearly cried when it drove away." His use of past tense made my stomach clench. "I still have mine," I corrected him. "Oh, sure," he backpedaled quickly. "I just meant, generally speaking." The rest of the ride passed in uncomfortable silence. When we finally arrived at the storage facility where I kept Eleanor, I thanked him and quickly grabbed my luggage. The security guard at the entrance nodded in recognition as I approached. "Welcome back, Miss Reynolds. Good trip." "Very productive," I replied automatically, already pulling out my access card. "Looking forward to seeing my car." He gave me an odd look, but said nothing as I hurried past. The facility housed about 50 vehicles, mostly classics and luxury cars owned by enthusiasts who lacked suitable home storage. My unit was at the far end, chosen specifically for its enhanced security features and climate control. As I rounded the corner to my section, something felt immediately wrong. The space where Eleanor should have been gleaming under the fluorescent lights was empty. I stopped short, my suitcase tilting over beside me. For a moment, I thought I must have gone to the wrong unit. Jet lag was making me confused. I double-checked the number on the door. Unit 37. This was definitely my space. But Eleanor was gone. Panic seized me. I rushed back to the security desk, my exhaustion temporarily forgotten. "My car is missing," I told the guard breathlessly. "Unit 37, the Mustang Shelby." He frowned, checking something on his computer. "Let me see. Yes, that vehicle was removed 2 weeks ago." "Removed? What do you mean, removed by who?" "An older gentleman. He had the proper access card and keys." He turned the screen so I could see. "Richard Reynolds, listed as an authorized emergency contact on your paperwork." My father had taken Eleanor. But why? And where was she now? With trembling hands, I pulled out my phone and called my parents. Straight to voicemail. I tried again with the same result. Next, I called my sister. Also voicemail. This wasn't a coincidence. They were avoiding me. Sinking onto a bench in the lobby, I opened Instagram and checked Jasmine's recent posts. There she was, lounging beside an infinity pool with a colourful drink in hand. The location tag read, "The Viceroy Bali." The post was from yesterday, so she really was in Bali. My mother had lied about the scheduled posts. And the luxury vacation, the designer shopping bags in her photos, the private cabana rentals she was flaunting. How could she suddenly afford all that? A sick feeling spread through my stomach as the pieces clicked together. My father had taken Eleanor. Jasmine was on an expensive vacation she couldn't possibly afford. My parents weren't answering their phones. They had sold my car to fund my sister's luxury trip. Rage and disbelief warred within me as I ordered another Uber. This time I directed the driver to my parents' suburban home. During the 40-minute ride, I kept trying their numbers, growing more furious with each unanswered call. The familiar 2-story colonial came into view, looking exactly as it always had. My father's sensible sedan and my mother's small SUV sat in the driveway. They were home, just ignoring my calls. I paid the driver and dragged my suitcase up the front walk. Without bothering to ring the doorbell, I used my key and pushed inside. "Mom, Dad?" I called out, my voice echoing through the entryway. There was a clatter from the kitchen, then my mother appeared, wiping her hands on a dish towel. Her expression of surprise quickly shifted to something like annoyance. "Oh, Sabrina, you're back early." "No, I'm not," I replied coldly. "I told you my return date changed. Where is Eleanor?" My father appeared from his study, unable to meet my eyes. "Now, Sabrina, let's discuss this calmly. Where is my car?" I repeated, my voice rising despite my efforts to control it. My mother crossed her arms defensively. Really, Sabrina? It was just sitting there gathering dust while you were gone. That doesn't answer my question, she sighed dramatically. Thanks to your car, our daughter is having the time of her life. The casual way she said it, the complete dismissal of my feelings, the utter betrayal it represented, it was so absurd that I actually let out a small chuckle of disbelief. What's so funny? She snapped. You have no idea what you've done, I said quietly. That car wasn't just worth the $40,000 or $50,000 you probably sold it for. A fully restored '67 Shelby GT500 in that condition is worth over $120,000. And more importantly, you had no legal right to sell it. I completed the title transfer 6 months ago. The car was solely in my name, not yours. What you did wasn't just a betrayal, Mom. It was grand theft auto. The smug smile vanished from her face, replaced by a pallor I had never seen before. But, my father stammered, you gave us the key. You left it with us. For emergencies, I corrected. Not so you could sell it behind my back to fund Jasmine's vacation. My mother found her voice again. Your sister needed this trip. Her followers expect a certain lifestyle. It's an investment in her career. So you stole from me. I was shaking, now tears threatening to spill. Do you have any idea how many hours I put into restoring that car? What it represented to me? It's just a car, Sabrina, my mother said dismissively. You can buy another one. That was when I broke. The tears came hot and fast, arms racking my jet-lagged body. It wasn't just a car, it was everything I've worked for, everything I've built, despite you never believing in me, and you just took it, like everything I care about means nothing. My father at least had the decency to look ashamed. My mother merely pursed her lips in that familiar expression of disapproval. Who did you sell it to? I demanded once I could speak again. A collector from Chicago, my father admitted. Thomas Whitfield. He specializes in Shelby Mustangs. How much? He hesitated. How much, Dad? Well, $45,000. I laughed bitterly. You sold a $120,000 car for $45,000. Did you even bother to get it appraised? It needed some work, he said defensively. No, it didn't. I completed the restoration myself. Every system was perfect. I took a deep breath, trying to steady myself. And how much of that money went to Jasmine's trip? My parents exchanged glances. All of it, I guessed. No, probably more right. Her posts show at least a month at a 5-star resort shopping sprees excursions. That's easily $30,000 plus. She needed this, Sabrina, but my mother insisted. She's been working so hard on her influencer career. This trip will take her to the next level. And what about what I need? Did that ever cross your mind? Did you even plan to tell me? Or were you hoping I just wouldn't notice my car was gone? Their silence was answer enough. I need to go, I said suddenly, unable to bear being in their presence a moment longer. Don't call me. Don't text me. I'll contact you when I'm ready. Sabrina, don't be dramatic, my mother started. I just got back from a 26-hour flight to discover my parents stole and sold my dream car. I'm not being dramatic. I'm being remarkably restrained. I turned and walked out, dragging my suitcase behind me. In the driveway, I ordered another Uber. As I waited, I leaned against my father's sedan and finally let myself cry without restraint. My apartment felt cold and empty when I finally returned. The bare white walls and minimal furniture had never bothered me before. I had always seen my living space as just that, a space for living. My real passion project was Eleanor the garage, where I kept her becoming more of a home than this apartment ever was. Now with Eleanor gone, the emptiness of my surroundings seemed to mirror the hollow feeling in my chest. I dropped my suitcase in the middle of the living room and collapsed onto my second-hand couch, too exhausted and emotionally drained to even make it to the bedroom. Sleep came in fitful bursts, interrupted by dreams of Eleanor being driven away by faceless figures, while I tried to run after her, my feet impossibly heavy. When my phone rang around noon the next day, I grabbed it desperately, hoping against hope that my parents were calling to say it had all been a misunderstanding. Instead, it was Jack. Hey, just checking in. Did you find your car in good shape? The question brought fresh tears to my eyes. Between sobs, I explained what had happened. Those absolute... He trailed off, clearly editing his language. I'm coming over. Have you eaten anything? I hadn't even thought about food. No. I'll bring lunch. Don't do anything until I get there, okay? Especially don't call your parents again. 40 minutes later, Jack arrived with bags of takeout Chinese food and a determined expression. He set up the food on my coffee table, and made me eat at least a few bites before we discussed next steps. First, we need to file a police report, he said, his software engineer's mind already organising the problem into solvable chunks. Your father had no legal right to sell the car if it was titled solely to you. But he's my father, I protested weakly. I can't have him arrested. Filing a report doesn't mean pressing charges yet, but it establishes the timeline and facts. It also helps if you need to pursue insurance claims or legal action against the buyer. The thought of involving police and courts made my head spin, but Jack was right. If I wanted any chance of recovering Eleanor, I needed to follow proper procedures. After lunch, Jack drove me to the local police station, where I filed a report for unauthorized sale of property. The officer taking my statement seemed sympathetic but not optimistic. Family situations are complicated, yeah, he explained, especially when you gave them access to the vehicle voluntarily. For emergencies only, I emphasized, not to sell it. I understand. We'll document everything. Do you want to press charges against your parents at this time? I hesitated, then shook my head. Not yet. I want to try to resolve this another way first. Back at my apartment, Jack helped me research Thomas Whitfield, the collector who had purchased Eleanor. He maintained a website showcasing his collection of classic Shelby Mustangs, but provided no contact information beyond an email address for serious inquiries only. I drafted and redrafted an email explaining the situation, trying to strike a balance between assertiveness and politeness. How do you tell someone they've purchased stolen property without making them defensive? While waiting for a response that might never come, I tried to focus on work. My boss was thrilled with the results of the Japan trip, confirming that the promotion to department head was mine. Under normal circumstances, this would have been cause for celebration. Instead, it barely registered through the fog of betrayal and loss. The worst part came 3 days later, when Jasmine called from Bali. I almost didn't answer, but curiosity won out. What possible justification could she offer? Sabrina, finally, Mum said you were throwing some kind of tantrum over that old car. Her casual tone made my blood boil. That old car, you mean the classic Mustang I spent years saving for and months restoring? The one our parents stole and sold to fund your luxury vacation. Geez, dramatic much. It's not like you don't make good money. You can buy another car. This trip was essential for my career. Do you know how many new followers I've gained? Did you know they were selling my car? I asked directly. A telling pause. Well, they mentioned they were helping you liquidate some assets since you were considering upgrading anyway. And you believed that, or did you just not care enough to question it? Look, Sabrina, not everyone can be Miss Perfect with their fancy engineering job. Some of us are trying to build something from scratch. This trip was a big investment in my future. Know it was theft from my present, and don't call me again until you're ready to acknowledge that. I hung up, hands shaking with anger. The entitlement, the casual dismissal of my feelings, the utter lack of remorse. It was all too much. For the first time in my life, I took a sick day from work, unable to face people or problems beyond my immediate crisis. Jack continued to check on me daily, bringing food and offering support. I found myself increasingly grateful for his friendship, a stark contrast to the betrayal by my own family. Have you heard back from the collector? He asked one evening as we picked at a pizza he'd brought over. Nothing. I'm starting to think my parents gave me a fake name to buy time. We should try car collector forums and social media. Someone in that community must know him. That night, I posted inquiries in several classic car forums explaining I was trying to contact Thomas Whitfield regarding a Shelby Mustang. By morning, I had several responses, including one that changed everything. Thomas Whitfield is legitimate, major collector, especially Shelbys, but he's very private, doesn't do social media. Email probably goes to an assistant. Try reaching him through Barrett Jackson Auction House. He's a regular there. A quick call to Barrett Jackson connected me with a representative who knew Whitfield. After hearing a condensed version of my situation, she agreed to pass along my contact information. No promises, but Tom's a reasonable guy. If there's an issue with provenance, he'll want to know. 2 days later, my phone rang with an unknown Chicago number. Is this Sabrina Reynolds? Asked a deep, gravelly voice. Yes, speaking. Thomas Whitfield here. I understand there's some question about the Shelby I recently purchased. My heart raced. Mr. Whitfield, thank you for calling. Yes, there's been a serious misunderstanding. The car was sold without my knowledge or permission. It's titled solely in my name, and my father had no legal right to sell it. A long pause followed. That's a troubling accusation, Ms. Reynolds. Your father presented himself as authorized to sell the vehicle. He had keys and documentation. He had a spare key I left for emergencies only. As for documentation, I'd be interested to know what he showed you, because the title is in my name alone. Kitten? Another pause. I see. This is quite unusual. I've been collecting cars for 30 years and have never encountered this particular situation. I can provide proof of ownership, I offered, and I've filed a police report documenting the unauthorized sale. Let's not get ahead of ourselves, he said quickly. I'm not interested in legal entanglements. Why don't we meet in person to discuss this? I'll be at the Lake Forest Car Show this weekend. Perhaps you could join me there. It was the first glimmer of hope I'd had since discovering Eleanor was gone. I'll be there. Thank you, Mr. Whitfield. For the first time in days, I felt something other than despair. There was a path forward, a chance to recover what I'd lost. I wouldn't let it slip away. The decision to take action transformed me. Grief gave way to determination, anger to focused resolve. If my parents thought I would simply accept their betrayal and move on, they were about to discover just how stubborn their eldest daughter could be. My first step was consulting a lawyer. Sarah Kimura specialized in property disputes and came highly recommended by a colleague. Her office was sleek but welcoming, much like the woman herself. So your parents sold your car without permission while you were overseas, she summarized after I explained my situation. And you've already filed a police report but haven't pressed charges. That's right. I'm meeting the buyer this weekend to discuss potential resolution. She nodded thoughtfully. That's a good first step. If he's reasonable, he might return the vehicle for a refund of what he paid. However, you should be prepared for resistance. Collectors become attached to their acquisitions quickly. What are my legal options if he refuses? You could sue both the buyer and your parents. With clear title in your name, you have a strong case for conversion, which is the civil equivalent of theft. However, she cautioned, litigation is expensive, time-consuming, and would permanently damage your relationship with your family. They've already damaged that relationship, I said bitterly. True, but courts and criminal charges create a different level of permanence. Before we go nuclear, let's see if the buyer is amenable to resolution. As I left her office with a folder of legal options, my phone rang. It was Marcus from work. Sabrina, great news. The board just approved your promotion to department head. Youngest ever and first woman to hold the position. There's a substantial salary increase too. Can you come in this afternoon to discuss details? The timing was surreal, professional triumph alongside personal betrayal. Still, the news sent a surge of validation through me. This was what I had worked for, what I had sacrificed for what my parents had never fully believed I could achieve. I'll be there at 2, I promised. The promotion meeting was a blur of congratulations paperwork and discussions about new responsibilities. The salary increase was even more substantial than I'd expected, nearly doubling my current compensation when including bonuses and stock options. As Marcus walked me out, he mentioned casually, by the way, there's a signing bonus too. $50,000 minus taxes, of course. Policy for executive-level promotions. $50,000. More than enough to potentially buy back Eleanor if Thomas Whitfield was willing to sell. The universe, it seemed, was offering a path forward. That evening, I received an email from Whitfield with details for our meeting at the car show. He also included a photo that made my heart skip a beat. There was Eleanor gleaming under professional lighting in what appeared to be a private showroom. She looked immaculate, even better than when I'd left her. I've had my team address a few minor issues with the exhaust system and interior detailing, his email explained. She's a remarkable example of the model. At least she was being well cared for, I thought, with mixed emotions. The car show was held at a sprawling estate north of Chicago. I arrived early, dressed professionally in slacks and a blazer despite the summer heat. Thomas Whitfield wasn't difficult to find. Tall and distinguished with silver hair and designer sunglasses, he stood beside Eleanor, who was roped off with other premium vehicles in a special display area. Mr. Whitfield, I approached cautiously. He turned, assessing me with keen blue eyes. Ms. Reynolds, I presume. Please call me Thomas. Up close, Eleanor looked even more beautiful than in the photos. The midnight blue paint gleamed in the sunlight chrome accents, reflecting like mirrors. Someone had taken excellent care of her these past weeks. She's quite something, Thomas commented, following my gaze. Your restoration work is impressive. Thank you. It was a labor of love. We moved to a nearby hospitality tent where Thomas ordered coffee for both of us. So, he said once we were seated, tell me your version of events. I explained everything from my years of saving to the restoration process to the betrayal while I was in Japan. I showed him the title documentation on my phone and the police report I'd filed. "I see," he said when I finished. "A troubling situation indeed. Your father represented himself as authorized to sell the vehicle on your behalf, claiming you needed liquid assets for a real estate investment. That's completely false. I never authorized anything." Thomas sighed heavily. "I was afraid of that. Your father and I have moved in the same collector circles for years. Not close friends, but acquaintances. When he contacted me about the Shelby, I assumed everything was above board. My father is a car collector. This was news to me. Small scale, mostly American classics from the 50s. Nothing as significant as your Shelby." He paused, looking uncomfortable. "There's something else you should know. The price I paid for the car, $45,000, say, I supplied. Initially, yes, but the car's condition was far superior to what your father represented. After inspection, I insisted on paying fair market value. The final transaction was for $80,000. The revelation hit me like a physical blow. My father had lied about the sale price too. Where had the additional $35,000 gone? "I have copies of all the paperwork," Thomas continued, "including the wire transfer confirmations." Did my father explain why he was selling such a valuable car so quickly? Thomas hesitated. He mentioned family financial troubles, something about your sister having significant debts that needed immediate resolution to prevent legal consequences. Gambling debts. It had to be. Jasmine's shopping addiction was one thing, but this suggested something more serious lurking behind her perfect social media facade. "I appreciate your honesty," I told him, "and I understand you purchased the car in good faith. I'm prepared to refund the $80,000 to recover Eleanor." He winced slightly. "I'm afraid it's not that simple. I've already declined 2 offers well above that amount from other collectors, and I've become rather attached to her." My heart sank. "She's not legally yours." "True, and I have no desire for legal entanglements or to possess stolen property. But perhaps we could find a compromise. What did you have in mind?" "I have every intention of keeping this Shelby in my collection long term. However, I acquire and occasionally sell other vehicles regularly. I could offer you right of first refusal on any similar model that comes my way, and in the meantime, you'd have visitation rights, so to speak." It wasn't what I wanted to hear, but his offer was better than nothing and certainly better than a protracted legal battle. "I need to think about it," I said finally. "Of course. Take your time." He handed me his business card with a personal cell number written on the back. "Call me directly when you decide, and regardless of what you choose, I think you should have these." He reached into his jacket pocket and produced a small envelope. Inside were photos of Eleanor from various angles professionally shot in his collection showroom. "Thank you," I said, genuinely touched by the gesture. As I drove back to Detroit that evening, my mind raced with new information and possibilities. My father was a car collector. He had lied about the sale price. Jasmine apparently had serious financial troubles beyond mere overspending. And most importantly, I now had leverage with my family that they didn't know about. When I reached my apartment, I made a difficult decision. I would go temporarily no contact with my family while I sorted through my options. I changed my phone number, created new email addresses, and began searching for a new apartment. If they wanted to reach me, they would need to work for it. The next morning, I returned to work with renewed focus. My team was excited about my promotion, and I threw myself into new responsibilities. The distraction was welcome. The challenge exactly what I needed to keep moving forward. 2 weeks passed without contact from my family. I found a new apartment in a secure building and moved in with Jack's help. I left no forwarding address, with my previous landlord effectively disappearing from my family's radar. Then came the voicemails. My parents had apparently been calling my old number repeatedly, leaving increasingly desperate messages that my service provider forwarded to my email. "Sabrina, please call us. We need to talk. This silence is childish. Call your mother immediately. Sweetheart, please. There are things you don't understand. We need your help." I ignored them all. Jasmine returned from Bali and immediately began posting about family drama and toxic people who cut you off without explanation. The irony was almost comical. Meanwhile, I started therapy. Dr. Collins specialized in family betrayal and helped me process my complicated emotions about the situation. "Your parents violated your boundaries in a profound way," she observed during our 3rd session. "Their actions suggest they don't see you as an autonomous adult with your own property rights." "They've always favored my sister," I explained, But this went beyond favoritism to actual theft. And how do you feel about potentially cutting them from your life permanently? The question gave me pause. I don't want that. Despite everything, they're still my family. But I need them to understand what they did was wrong, really wrong, and I need them to make amends somehow. That's a healthy perspective. Reconciliation is possible, but it requires acknowledgement of harm and a commitment to changed behavior. As the weeks passed, my new life began taking shape. My expanded responsibilities at work proved challenging but fulfilling. Jack and I were spending more time together outside of work, our friendship evolving into something that felt increasingly like more. I was even considering dating again, something I'd put on hold during the intense Japan project. Then exactly 1 month after my return from Japan, everything collided at once. The conference room was supposed to be reserved for my team meeting that morning. Instead, I opened the door to find my mother, father, and sister sitting at the table, looking simultaneously defiant and desperate. "What are you doing here?" I demanded, instinctively stepping back. "How did you even get in?" "Your receptionist recognized us from the family photo on your desk," my mother explained. "We told her we needed to surprise you for your birthday." "My birthday was 4 months ago." My father at least had the decency to look embarrassed. "Sabrina, please. We've been trying to reach you for weeks." "I've been busy," I replied coldly. "Building my career, finding a new place to live, dealing with the fact that my family stole from me. You know the usual." Jasmine rolled her eyes. "Still being dramatic about that car, I see." I fixed her with an icy stare. "That car was worth more than your entire wardrobe of designer clothes, Jasmine. And unlike your Instagram followers, it was actually real." "Girls, please," my father interjected. "We're here to talk, not fight." I checked my watch. "My team will be here in 15 minutes for an actual work meeting. So talk fast." "We made a mistake." My mother began, her usual imperious tone notably absent. "We should have discussed the situation with you before making any decisions about the car." "The situation, you mean my car, that I owned, that was titled in my name, that you had no legal right to sell that situation." "Yes," my father said quietly, "that situation." "And what exactly was this mysterious situation that justified grand theft auto?" My parents exchanged uncomfortable glances. Jasmine suddenly became very interested in her manicure. "Financial difficulties, my father finally admitted. "Significant ones." "I know about Jasmine's gambling debts," I said, watching my sister's head snap up in surprise. "Thomas Whitfield told me everything." "Gannett, you spoke to Tom?" My father paled visibly. "We had a lovely chat. He showed me Eleanor, who looks beautiful in his collection. He also mentioned paying you $80,000, not $45,000. Care to explain the discrepancy?" More uncomfortable glances. "The additional funds went to pay off a second mortgage," my father admitted. "One your mother doesn't know about." Now it was my mother's turn to look shocked. "Richard, what second mortgage?" "I took it out last year when Jasmine's situation became critical. The gambling debts were to some very unpleasant people, Patricia. They were making threats. The family drama unfolding before me would have been almost comical if it weren't so tragic. Years of financial secrets and enabling behavior had created a perfect storm that eventually swept away my car in the flood." "So let me get this straight," I said, trying to maintain my composure. "Jasmine has a gambling problem that you've been enabling. Dad secretly mortgaged the house to pay her debts. When that wasn't enough, you stole and sold my car. And now you're here because, what? You need more money." "We need help," my mother admitted, her voice smaller than I'd ever heard it. "Your father's retirement account is depleted. The house payment is behind. Jasmine's credit cards are maxed out. And you think that's my problem because we're family," my mother said, as if that explained everything. "Family doesn't steal from each other," I countered. "Family doesn't lie about sale prices and pocket the difference. Family respects boundaries and property." "I got the promotion," I continued after a moment of heavy silence. "Department head, youngest in company history, and first woman to hold the position. Not that any of you have asked about my career lately." "That's wonderful, sweetheart," my father said tentatively. "We're very proud." "Are you? Because all I've ever heard from this family is how my interests weren't feminine enough, how my career choice was too demanding, how I should be more like Jasmine. Now look where we all are." My sister finally spoke up. "Some of us don't have your advantages, Sabrina. Not everyone can be Miss Perfect Engineer with the fancy job." "Advantages?" What advantages I worked my way through college with 3 jobs while you got full parental support. I saved for 5 years to buy Eleanor, while you got bailout after bailout for your mistakes. The only advantage I had was being completely ignored by our parents, which forced me to become self-sufficient. My bluntness seemed to stun them all into silence. My team will be here any minute, I said, checking my watch again. So what exactly do you want from me? A loan, my father admitted. Just until we can get back on our feet. How much? 50,000 would help with the immediate issues. I laughed without humor. That's quite a coincidence. Exactly the amount of my signing bonus for this promotion. Did Aunt Carol tell you about that? She's the only family member I'm still in contact with. My mother's guilty expression confirmed my suspicion. I need you all to leave now, I said firmly. I have actual work to do, real responsibilities, a career that matters to me. So that's it. My mother's voice cracked slightly. You're just going to abandon your family when we need you. Like you abandoned me by selling the one thing that mattered most to me without even a conversation. Like that kind of abandonment. Security arrived, then summoned discreetly by my assistant, who had noticed the tension through the glass walls. My family was escorted out while I retreated to my office, shaking with adrenaline and emotion. Later that afternoon, I received an unexpected email from Thomas Whitfield. Ms. Reynolds, I've been reflecting on our conversation and my own ethics as a collector. While I purchased your Shelby in good faith, I cannot in good conscience keep a vehicle obtained through such troubling circumstances. I will not be selling Eleanor back to you, as she has indeed captured my heart. However, I recently acquired another project that might interest you. Attached was a photo of a 1968 Shelby GT500 KR convertible in Highland green in need of significant restoration, but with all matching numbers and original parts. I paid $40,000 for this at auction yesterday. It's yours for the same price if you want it. Not a replacement for your Eleanor, but perhaps the beginning of a new chapter. It wasn't Eleanor. Nothing could replace her or erase the betrayal of my family. But it was an olive branch, yikes, from an unexpected source, a potential new project to channel my energy and passion. That weekend, I agreed to meet Thomas at a classic car show where he was showing Eleanor. Walking up to her was like seeing an old friend who had moved away. I ran my fingers lightly over her fender, remembering every hour I'd spent restoring her. She misses you, Thomas said, watching my interaction with the car. Vehicles have souls, I'm convinced of it. Thank you for taking good care of her, I replied, blinking back tears. And for your offer on the 68, I'd like to accept. Excellent. I'll have the paperwork drawn up. He hesitated, then added, I spoke with your father yesterday. My head snapped up. About what? He called to ask if I'd be willing to buy another vehicle from him, a 1957 Chevrolet Bel Air. I declined and took the opportunity to express my disappointment in how he had handled the sale of your Shelby. How did he respond? He broke down, actually. Said he'd destroyed his relationship with his daughter over poor financial decisions and enabling behavior. Said he didn't know how to fix it. I wasn't ready to forgive my father, but something in Thomas's words touched a chord. Perhaps there was genuine remorse there, not just financial desperation. Have you considered what reconciliation might look like? Thomas asked gently. Not that you owe them anything, but for your own peace of mind. I'm still working through that, I admitted. There needs to be real acknowledgement and change, not just words. He nodded thoughtfully. Well, the 68 will be delivered to your garage next weekend. Perhaps building something new will help you decide what to do about rebuilding other things. Later that evening, I received a text from my father. Just 3 words, I am sorry. It wasn't enough, not nearly enough, but it was something. The green 1968 Shelby GT500 KR convertible sat in my new, larger garage, a project full of potential, but requiring significant work. Unlike Eleanor, who had been substantially complete when I purchased her, this vehicle needed everything from engine rebuilding to interior restoration. In a way, it was the perfect metaphor for where I stood with my family. The foundation was there, but everything else needed to be dismantled, cleaned, fixed, and carefully reassembled. And like car restoration, reconciliation couldn't be rushed. 3 weeks after the confrontation at my office, I agreed to meet my family at a neutral location, a restaurant halfway between my new apartment and their suburban home. I brought Jack along for moral support, which immediately raised eyebrows. Who's your friend? My mother asked as we sat down at the reserved table. This is Jack Hansen. He works with me at Meridian and has been incredibly supportive during everything that's happened. Jack nodded politely but said little, his presence beside me, a silent statement about where my trust now resided. "We appreciate you meeting us," my father began once orders had been placed, "and we understand you have every right to be angry." "I'm past anger," I replied truthfully. "Now I'm just disappointed and cautious." "What can we do?" my mother asked, her usual defensiveness notably absent. "How do we make this right?" "You can't make it completely right," I said honestly. "Eleanor is gone, and with her, a level of trust that may never fully return, but moving forward requires several things." I pulled out a notepad where I had prepared my thoughts. Engineer to the core, I had created a structured approach to this family crisis. First, complete honesty about the financial situation, all of it. No more secrets, no more enabling, no more lies. My father nodded, pulling out a folder. "I've prepared a complete accounting of everything. The second mortgage, credit card debts, Jasmine's gambling losses, all of it. Second, a plan for financial recovery that doesn't involve taking from me. I won't be giving loans or gifts until I see real change in behaviour." "We've already started," my mother interjected. "We're working with a financial advisor. Jasmine has started therapy for her gambling addiction." My sister, unusually quiet until now, spoke up. 28 days so far," she said, showing me a sobriety chip. "One day at a time, like they say." I hadn't expected that. The chip looked worn already, as if she'd been fidgeting with it constantly. "That's really good, Jazz. I'm proud of you for getting help." Her eyes widened slightly at the compliment. When was the last time anyone in our family had expressed genuine pride in something that wasn't superficial? Third, I continued, boundaries, real ones that you all respect. My property is mine. My decisions are mine. My career is mine. "Absolutely," my father agreed quickly. "We were wrong to take your car. So wrong. I'd do anything to undo that decision." "You can't undo it, but you can acknowledge the real reason behind it. It wasn't just financial desperation. There's been a pattern my whole life of dismissing my interests, my achievements, my priorities." "Okay," my mother looked down at her hands. "We didn't understand your world. Cars and engineering seem so unfeminine. We thought we were protecting you by pushing you toward more traditional paths." "I didn't need protection. I needed support." "We see that now," my father said quietly. "Your success speaks for itself. We were wrong." The conversation continued through dinner, sometimes tense, occasionally tearful, but more honest than any family discussion we'd ever had. Jasmine admitted she had felt crushing pressure to succeed as an influencer after dropping out of her marketing degree program. The gambling had started as a way to quickly fund the lifestyle her followers expected. "I was so jealous of you," she confessed, surprising me. "You always knew exactly what you wanted and just went after it no matter what anyone thought. I've spent my whole life trying to be what other people wanted me to be." "I didn't know you felt that way," I admitted. "I always thought I was the family disappointment." "You were the family intimidation," she corrected with a small smile. "Do you know how hard it is to follow someone who designs engines for a living, who restores classic cars as a hobby, who gets promoted to department head before 35? You're terrifying, Sabrina." I hadn't considered that perspective before. In my mind, I was always the awkward, unfeminine daughter who couldn't meet my mother's standards. The idea that my sister had been intimidated by me was revelatory. As dinner concluded, my father handed me an envelope. "What's this?" I asked suspiciously. "The remaining $35,000 from the car sale," he explained. "We've been living on credit cards and minimum payments to save it for you. It doesn't make up for what happened, but it's a start." I stared at the envelope, then pushed it back across the table. "Keep it. Use it to pay down the second mortgage. But this is the last financial entanglement between us, understood? From now on, everyone handles their own money." My parents nodded, looking simultaneously relieved and ashamed. "So where do we go from here?" my mother asked tentatively. "Slowly," I answered truthfully. "I'm not ready for regular family dinners or holiday celebrations yet, but I'm willing to start with occasional meetings like this. Small steps." It was more than they had expected, judging by their expressions of relief. As we prepared to leave, Jasmine pulled me aside. "I really am sorry about the car. I didn't understand what it meant to you." "It wasn't just a car, Jazz. It was everything I had worked for, everything I had built with my own hands." "I get that now. Sort of anyway." She hesitated. Would you show me the new project sometime, the 68? It was an olive branch, unexpected but not unwelcome. Maybe, once I've made some progress on it. Touchdown. In the parking lot, Jack squeezed my hand supportively. You did great in there. Did I make the right call? With the money, I mean. I can't answer that for you, but I think you created the possibility for something better than what existed before. On the drive home, I received a text from Thomas Whitfield. Attached was a photo of Eleanor gleaming under showroom lights. She's the centerpiece of the collection now. You're welcome to visit anytime. I smiled sadly at the image. She looked beautiful, even if she wasn't mine anymore. Perhaps that was part of moving forward, accepting that some things can be appreciated from a distance. The next morning, I woke early and headed to my garage. The '68 Shelby waited patiently, a mountain of work ahead, but full of possibility. As I began cataloguing parts and planning the restoration sequence, my phone buzzed with an email notification from work. Green light on the prototype project. Budget approved. You'll select your team. Congratulations. The prototype project. My dream assignment. Designing an original sports car concept from the ground up with my name attached to the engineering patents. It was everything I had worked toward professionally arriving, just as I was rebuilding other aspects of my life. Jack called minutes later, having received the same update. Have you seen the news? This is huge, Sabrina. I just saw it. I can't believe they approved the full budget request. Believe it. And guess who just got assigned to your team as lead software engineer? His excitement was contagious. You? Me, we're going to build something amazing together. The double meaning wasn't lost on me. Over the past months, our relationship had evolved beyond friendship, cautiously but steadily. Like a careful restoration, we were building something piece by piece, making sure each component was solid before moving to the next. That evening, I took a small framed photo of Eleanor and placed it on my workbench in the garage. Not as a reminder of what I had lost, but as acknowledgement of what I had created once and could create again. 6 months passed. The '68 Shelby took shape under my careful restoration. The prototype project advanced from designs to components testing, and my family slowly, painfully began to heal. Jasmine maintained her gambling sobriety and found work at a legitimate marketing firm. My parents attended financial counseling and respected the boundaries I had established. One Sunday afternoon, Thomas Whitfield called unexpectedly. Sabrina, I'm reaching out because I've made a decision. I'll be downsizing my collection next year. When that happens, I want you to have first refusal on Eleanor. My heart leapt at his words, even as I cautioned myself against too much hope. That's incredibly generous, Thomas. Thank you. Nothing generous about it. She belongs with the person who truly loves her. That's always been you. After we hung up, I sat quietly in my garage surrounded by the partially restored '68 and the tools of my passion. Whether Eleanor returned to me someday or remained a beautiful memory, I had learned something valuable through her loss. The greatest freedom isn't what you drive, but your ability to move forward when others try to take the wheel of your life. I had reclaimed that freedom, rebuilding not just cars, but relationships and boundaries on my own terms. As I picked up a wrench and returned to work on the '68's transmission, I felt a sense of peace that had been missing for months. Some losses change us forever, but they don't have to define us. Sometimes they simply create space for something new to be built, something that might never have existed otherwise. The '68 would never be Eleanor. My family would never be perfect, and that was okay. Perfection isn't the goal in restoration work. Authenticity is, and my life with all its rebuilt components and carefully calibrated adjustments was becoming authentically mine again. I stand in my garage today looking at 2 beautiful vehicles side by side. On the left, the fully restored 1968 Shelby GT500 KR convertible, gleaming Highland green with its distinctive Cobra emblems. On the right, something even more personal, the first production prototype of the Meridian SR1, the sports car I designed from the ground up. My journey from betrayal to rebuilding taught me lessons I never expected to learn. About cars, yes, but more importantly about family forgiveness and finding strength in starting over. Eleanor never did return to me. Thomas Whitfield decided to keep her after all, though he still welcomes me to visit whenever I'm in Chicago. At first that hurt, but eventually I realized something important. Eleanor had served her purpose in my life. She represented a dream achieved, then lost, then replaced with something deeper. My sister Jasmine celebrated 2 years of gambling sobriety last month. She's still into fashion and social media, but now she creates content about financial responsibility and authentic living. Her followers have actually increased since she started being honest about her struggles. We meet for coffee every other week, a relationship rebuilt on honesty rather than competition. My parents have changed too. They sold their oversized suburban home and downsized to a comfortable condo, free from the second mortgage and credit card debt that once consumed them. My father joined a classic car appreciation club, finally embracing the interest we always shared, but he never acknowledged. My mother has started asking genuine questions about my work, making real efforts to understand my world. Jack proposed 6 months ago. The ring sits comfortably on my finger, a custom design that incorporates tiny automotive elements only an engineer would notice. We're planning a small ceremony at an automobile museum perfectly us in every way. The Meridian SR1 goes into full production next year. My name will be on the engineering patents, my vision in every curve and system. It's not the most powerful sports car on the market, nor the most luxurious, but early reviews call it the most thoughtfully engineered driving experience of the decade. I couldn't ask for higher praise. Sometimes I think about that moment in my parents' driveway when I realized they had sold Eleanor. The devastation I felt, the certainty that nothing would ever be right again. I couldn't see then that losing something precious would ultimately lead to gaining something even more valuable, true independence, healthier relationships, and the confidence to build something entirely my own. The greatest freedom isn't what you drive, but your ability to move forward when others try to take the wheel of your life. Sometimes betrayal becomes the beginning of a better road than you ever imagined possible. Have you ever lost something precious that ultimately led to unexpected growth? Share your story in the comments below. If this resonated with you, please hit that subscribe button and like this video so others can find it too. Thanks for coming along on this journey with me, and remember, sometimes the most beautiful restorations aren't of cars, but of ourselves and our relationships.